and welcome to a Gooner Ramble. We are back after a little tiny break. I know we promised you we'd be here Boxing Day, but obviously the Kylo Ren Lego set which I got took priority, so I unfortunately didn't podcast with some others for you all, and then everybody else was enjoying the festivities also, so apologies for that. But we're here now, and joining me this evening we've got Judd. Judd, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, mate.
How was your Christmas, mate? Was it all good?
Oh, fantastic.
Good. And also, we got the people's champion, I like to call him. We got Clive. Clive, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. We are top of the league, aren't we?
Yes. I don't like to use the phrase joint top. We're first, so that's the way it is.
Sounds good, mate.
And how was your Christmas, Clive? All well?
Still going on. Yeah.
Good. It doesn't stop.
Work. I'm off work, and every night's a red wine night.
The party don't start till Clive walks in, right?
I don't know about that, but it's still going on. I'm not back until next Monday, so I'm looking forward to just a little bit of time off.
Good man. Well, going into Boxing Day to begin with, I talked about my Kylo Ren Lego set. That's now officially on the floor. We travelled up to St Mary's. It's always a tricky task. They hadn't won a game since November, I believe. Possibly. Was it November?
Yeah, it was 5 or 6.
Yeah, they were on a bad run, but I was one of them, I wasn't going to write them off. It's the kind of, I don't know, it's something about St Mary's and Southampton, like, we always seem to struggle. I think since the last 2 times we've been there, it's been a bit of a slog, and this was, for me, just unacceptable. I don't know who wants to jump in there first. Obviously, the side picked itself. It was the same team that done well the week before and everything else. What did you guys make of this game? Because honestly, just what went wrong?
Well, going into the game, I think I said on the previous podcast that we'd been struggling on the back of a good result in recent years. It seems like it's always been kind of a bogey for us, and I feared that we might have a game like that, but I never really fully expected that. I thought that, especially once things played out to the point where it looked like we had a chance to go top, I thought for sure the guys would respond. But man, it was one of those days where, just everybody was off. You'll have those occasions where you got 1 or 2 players that just quite aren't on their best form, but, the rest of the team's there to pick them up. But I don't think there was a single player out there on Boxing Day that actually played well. And, it just was like it all went wrong, didn't it? And the heaviest defeat in the league in like 18 months for us or something like that. It was just a all-around horrible day. Looked like everybody had drank a little bit too much the day before. I get Clive's take. What do you think, mate?
Well, I thought maybe the Southampton game was lost the moment we beat City. I felt we put a huge effort in against City. I thought, especially front players, Giroud, Walcott. I mean, how many times did we see Walcott in the left back position, fighting and working hard? Campbell ran himself silly. And I thought it was a huge effort, and some people say it's the greatest night of atmosphere at the Emirates so far. And I thought that really took a toll. And we went to Southampton game, and they lost Pele before the game, and they played long and they played Mane. So straight away they just went long. They just wanted to play in our half and make us defend. And the wind actually helped them. It actually helped to stop the ball running out. And they really adapted to conditions really well. And the constant pressure on our centre-backs was quite interesting. And everyone was looking at our centre-backs. They were looking at Mertesacker and looking at Koscielny. But what you do when you're watching these type of games, you have to cut it out at source. You have to look at where is the ball coming from. And the reason why I picked on the forward players, against City, those forward players were really pressing the ball, making sure that the service into our defenders was really poor. But against Southampton, they just couldn't manage it. They couldn't find the effort. We couldn't press them in centre mid. We dropped deeper. And basically, they turned us around, and they got some breaks and won the goal. The second goal was a definite foul. The third goal was a corner. But you can't say that Southampton didn't deserve the bit of luck that they got. And we just weren't quite at the races. And it was hard to take. But actually, in some ways, what I like about this Arsenal team is that when we lose a game, we just lose 3 points. There was times historically when we'd be losing a game, we would chase a game ridiculously that we couldn't win. we'd get a red card, someone would get suspended, we'd get a massive injury, and then we'd lose a player. So we wouldn't just lose 3 points, we'd lose a couple of players as well for doing something stupid. So I was actually quite pleased that we actually, when it got to 2-0, it's hard to take the 4-0, but it's better to lose just the 3 points rather than do what Man City did on the day. They end up losing company, which is a major blow for the future games. We just lost 3 points and we were able to reset afterwards.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said about everybody having an off day, Judd, I mean, you could list loads of them. I mean, the first goal at Martina, that's a wonder goal. I can't blame Sheck for that. You can have any goalkeeper in the world, but you know, like Clive said, you stop it at the source. Nobody ran to close him down from that corner.
And on top of that, the clearance, I think it was from Mertesacker, wasn't really the greatest either.
Yeah, but I mean, I said it on my timeline, guys. I don't know if you agree with me, but the space we were leaving him behind in that game was absolutely ridiculous. And you know, I don't like massively slating a player, but Walcott, I thought, even we'll touch on it later in the Bournemouth game, he just non-existent. But Aaron Ramsey against Southampton, I was like, you want this position to be your own. You know, you want to make this your position. If you're not willing to do the defensive work like Cazorla did when he was in there, because Cazorla put himself about, like, people will slate him saying, all right, his goals are dried up and everything else, but he was getting his tackles in, he's breaking up play with Coquelin, and then he's spreading the ball out, giving it to people like Ozil, stuff like that, let him work some magic. Ramsey, for me, was just lost, and I mean, Flamini, we all knew eventually there will come a game where Flamini doesn't perform, and obviously he got injured at the end, which wasn't fantastic and everything else, but no, Aaron Ramsey for me was a standout. I was like, you today, boy, have really shown that, you know, are you ready for this opportunity? Because for me, he didn't look it, and then, you know.
Well, like I said after the City pod, you know, he was getting upfield a little bit too much late in the game. He was almost guilty of he was the one that made that ending a lot closer than it needed to be. And that everybody kind of had to keep calm about his partnership with Flamini in the midfield because it was only one match.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I already said I told you so once this podcast, but, you know, that's pretty much how things played out on Saturday. So.
Can I come back on that a little bit? I think
sure.
It's really interesting what happens when we are losing the game, right? So I always look at players when they're under stress, right? So when we're under stress, what does Flamini do? The first thing he does is he starts to point and shout, and he drops deep between the two centre-backs. He just does it. When he's under stress, when he's physically at his limit, he doesn't feel comfortable engaging, so he drops deep, and he tries to defend the centre-backs, which is exactly what we didn't need. Southampton were getting service into our danger areas, and we needed our centre midfielders to go up and engage them and really take the game away from them with a sharp tackling, quick combinations, and keeping our distances close together. Then you look at Aaron Ramsey, and Aaron Ramsey, in my opinion, is not a number 8, he's a number 10, right? So, and that's why Wenger plays him on the right, because he doesn't offer the team structure as under stress. Against the middle to lower teams, he can do what he likes and we don't get punished. Against teams who are on it, who are quite difficult for us, I think he can be a weakness. So when Aaron Ramsey wants to get into the game, he's under stress, and he wants to help the team back into the game, what he does is he follows the ball into wide areas and he empties midfield. And so he plays like a 10. He knocks the ball, and his first thought is not to do what I call behind the ball support lines. His first thought is to break. Is to break into space, forward. Naturally, that he looks great doing that. And if it works, a lot of his best touches are in the last third. If it works, great. Everyone thinks, oh, Ramsey, what a great cross, what a great flick. But he's not picked to do that. Mesut Ozil is picked to do that. Aaron Ramsey's job is to control centre midfield, especially when we're under pressure. And this is why I believe probably the first time, and it's a credit to the players who are playing, we really miss Coquelin and Cazorla, because they are all about control and facilitating that ball into other areas where we can really hurt people. There is no way Southampton would have sustained that level of pressure if Coquelin and Cazorla were playing, because we missed the technical security of Cazorla, and Coquelin would have engaged higher up, and he would have punched that at source and stopped that. But you know what? We've lost them both for 3 months. We're probably halfway through that now, and the team has done great to manage the fact that we've lost our first choice centre midfield. I think this game showed me they are our first choice centre midfield, and for me, we need to really work out, how Aaron Ramsey is going to fit into our structure. And I think he's better as a narrow person on the right, where his strong parts of his game, which is breaking into space, joining the play, giving us possession overloads, fantastic. And he doesn't impact the structure of our team in the same way as he does when he's playing centre midfield against good sides. And I felt that was the case on against Southampton. But he wasn't the only one. We didn't stop the source up front. Walcott was tired. Giroud started bright, then he tired. Joel Campbell exploded. He tired. And so Aaron Ramsey was forcing the play, trying to get us back into the game. The only way he knows how. And that is to try to break into space. And that, for me, is the DNA of a number 10. And that's why I have concerns about him playing in centre midfield.
Well, another thing I will say is that I know I'm looking really, really far into it, but in a few weeks' time, we go to the Britannia to play Stoke, I believe. And I mean, we got out-muscled by this Southampton team. People like Stoke, they can see a blueprint there. I think Newcastle as well. I know they're not on the best of runs, but they'll look at this. They've got some burly lads, Sissoko and Wijnaldum and some others. They'll probably look at this and go, play rough against them. And you never know, we might get a result here. What did you guys think of that? Because I thought some of the challenges Southampton were doing were going unpunished. I thought a bit of it was they were throwing a few legs in, and like you said, definite kick on Koscielny for the goal, but that's just the way things go. But they were really a physical side against us, and I thought we sort of had that backbone, but obviously we were wrong.
Well, I don't know if they'll look at this one individual result and get anything different out of it, because Stoke's been a team that's played that way against us for ages, and they've had some success in the past doing so. So I wouldn't read into just the one result too much, but that's the kind of approach that has been somewhat effective against Arsenal over the past 7-8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd expect that going up there too.
I think just to add on to that, I think we've got our next 6 away games, right? Our Liverpool, Stoke, Bournemouth, Man United, Spurs, and Everton. That's they're decent games, right? So Liverpool, we don't stroll up there. Stoke, we all know what happens there. These are real games, and I think the team has done a fantastic job of adjusting to the losses that they've had, right? So Giroud hit a fantastic purple patch. It peaked in Olympiacos. He's done very, very well. And you're just starting to see him look a little bit leggy again, right? So Walcott, he's come in. He's gone into the Sanchez role. He's done a fantastic impersonation of working hard on that left-hand side. Scored a great goal against City. But his work rate defensively, and he's almost turned into a midfielder again. He deserves a lot of credit for that, because he's been at centre forward for a long time now. We've stuck him on the left, and he's managed to sort of be effective. It's Theo Walcott effective, right? We're talking 15 touches a game, but 8 of them are deadly. And that's what he does, right? So, but I do think with those away games coming up, we may have to find another blend. And I would like to see, when Alexis comes back in, I would like to see us go back to the Walcott up front, because I think that's the way to really affect these teams and make them step back from us to allow us to get control in centre midfield. If we have Giroud, I'm not saying he's the worst thing in the world, but I'm just saying for some of those games, if we have Giroud, what people do is they press on, and they really do force our centre midfield players to be technically secure. And we have lost our first choice centre midfield players to offer that technical and physical security. So if I was other teams and I see Giroud playing, I would step up high and I would force us to play through the thirds, and I would press us. That's what Southampton did when we had the ball. When they had the ball, they kicked it long and then worked on the second ball. They did it really, really well. They got away with it. They got a bit of luck. It wasn't our day. But there is some signs there that we may have to adjust our game again, and we may have to go to a transfer market, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, you talk about playing. You talk about playing Walker up front, Clive. Would you still stick Joel Campbell out there on the wings with Sanchez? Do you think the two South Americans deserve a shot?
Joel Campbell's had a fantastic run, right?
Yeah.
And this is the first time he's played top level football for this many times. 3 times a week in some cases, right? And I think at times you just see that physically he's right at the limit. And when he's not there, we can all see it. It's immediate. He's not even close to being there. I think he needs to be looked after, and we can't expect him to play every minute, every week, right? So it's quite interesting before we go into Bournemouth, but I thought Oxlade-Chamberlain looked very good against Bournemouth. I thought he was starting to come back, starting to build some confidence. Some of his play on the ball was really neat. And there's no issue with me with them two rotating and really developing some. So we make sure we have a fresh players between Sanchez, who just came back from injury, Chambers and Campbell. We've got 3 players there who are pretty good in wide areas, right? So we just got to make sure we pick the freshest one on the day.
Yeah. And what about you, Judd? Do you think Joel Campbell deserves it?
Since you guys gave me a hard time about my geography when I kept saying Turkey instead of Greece going into the Olympiacos game, Costa Rica, Central America.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. You've got my bad.
I only know because we wind up playing them all the time in World Cup qualifiers and things like that.
Yeah, they're in the CONCACAF thing, aren't they?
Yep. But yeah, I think he's, like Clive was saying, I think he's kind of getting...
You made me look right and stupid. No, it's fine.
You're starting to see that his fitness isn't quite there. I mean, clearly it's not the level of Sanchez, and not quite the level that's required to be playing multiple games a week. But when he has been out there, he's done well. I think he's earned a spot, and he's definitely earned more minutes. I like the idea of having Sanchez, Campbell, and Walcott as our front 3. I think that a lot of that will be dictated by who we're playing and how we're going to approach the game tactically, if we're going to go with those 3. And like Clive was saying, when you have Giroud out there, because he's a bigger, more physical, a little bit slower, it invites the defense up. And then I think on top of that, the way that Giroud plays, he likes to play the hold-up man and then bring the midfielders into the game. So that even further compacts things. So I think that, like a match like we're probably going to have against Stoke might be a good opportunity to try something like that.
Yeah. Was it?
The Stoke game will be interesting, right? Because I often feel, and it depends on the day, right? Because if Giroud's hot Giroud, then it's not a problem, right? So, but sometimes I feel with Stoke players, centre backs, they like to have a target. And they look at Giroud and they think, right, it's me and you, son. It's mano a mano. Let's have a fight. And Giroud can be really good like he was in Olympiacos and win that fight. Or he can be a little bit temperamental if he gets hurt and gets knocked early.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think if I was, Shawcross, do I want to see Giroud? Or do I want to see Alexis and Walcott running at me? Right? And I think maybe that's the day to release the speed and really hurt them and take them on mobility. But let's think about this cleverly, right? Stoke now are not, okay, their defenders are big and lumpy, but their forwards are small and agile and quick. This is going to be a football game, right? And it's about time we came out on top of this one, right? So I do think, Bojan's playing brilliant, and Arnautovic is playing really well. And Shaqiri does a lovely diagonal to Arnautovic from right to left. And so I think it's going to be a day for agility and speed. And I hope we play a quick team for them. I think we can really match them. I hope it's nothing against Giroud. It's just different people for different games, right? I just think it's time to really speed them, and take them on with pace. Pace at the back and pace up front and in wide areas, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that Arnautovic at the moment, like I said in this Southampton game, you want to close him down. It seems that everything he touches within 20 odd yards, he's hitting these like Zlatan Ibrahimovic top bin bloody shots from God knows where at the moment. He's having a brilliant time.
They will play us. They will try to play us.
Yeah.
So that means we've got to engage them and then quick break. And Stoke
they've still got Glenn Johnson. If we can run him ragged.
They are different in up front and the number 10 position, but they're the same big lumps at the back. So I do think that's the way to get to them, but we have to get to them.
I do rate their goalie though, Clive. At the moment, I really do rate Butland. We talked about him last pod as well.
Yeah.
I think he could be a tricky, but with our front line, we should be able to cope. But is there anything else you guys wanted to add on Southampton, or do you want to go to the more happier game of the festive period?
On Southampton, I just think we all, me included, right? We all get dramatic. We all get dramatic when we lose.
Yeah. Well, my Lego smash, mate. So yeah.
Yeah. But I was more disappointed with West Brom, where we were clearly the better side. We got no luck, missed a penalty late on, and you walk away, you think, well, how did that happen? Where Southampton, they were useless against Spurs. They've also got Ronald Koeman gave them a big talking to. They've had a big moment in the dressing room, and they've come out pumped and have got a few breaks, and we've been battered. That happens a couple of times a season, right? You got to accept it. But don't let it cost you more than 3 points. Don't do nothing stupid. Don't get an injury. Don't get a sending off. And I thought we chucked it and it was hard, but the response was against Bournemouth, and we probably move on to that.
Yeah. Well, going into Bournemouth. Oh, sorry, Jack, go for it.
I'm sorry. Is just to build on top of that, when you get outplayed, it's a lot more easy to move on than when you have a game like West Brom or when you have a game like Chelsea where you feel that there's been an injustice that, that's the only reason you didn't get the points. But, Saturday was just a comprehensive beating. Sure, the ref didn't have the greatest day, but he certainly did not play any impact in the final result. We just got outplayed.
Yeah.
All right, so on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. Well, going into the Bournemouth game, Gabriel comes in for Laurent Koscielny, Gibbs comes in for Monreal, Chambers comes in for Famili, and Chamberlain come in for Joel Campbell. So, how did you think these guys performed? Obviously, towards the end of the game, Gibbs had to be taken off for what seemed like cramp, but some people were saying it's an injury. For me, Chambers, I thought brilliant. I thought he was solid in that. I know, obviously, Bournemouth aren't the biggest, scariest opposition, but I thought he controlled that midfield. I thought he played really well. And like you said earlier, Clive, I thought Chamberlain looked a lot better. A lot of people have been questioning recently, going, he's been here 5 years. What's he delivered in the 5 years? And this was meant to be his breakout season. I remember after that Chelsea game, I was singing his praises, going, I think this is going to be his year. And obviously it's pilted a bit, but, it's blowing to and fro, isn't it?
Yeah, the most pleasing thing for me for the Bournemouth game was that all 4 changes, in my opinion, were successful. Right? So, Gibbs had a very good game. I think he had some of the top 2 pass combinations with Gabriel, and he was really influential until he blew up with cramp. Gabriel, he hasn't played for a while since I think Bayern Munich, and he's been on the bench. He looks like a real team player. When he was cold and we had to come in late against Liverpool, it took him a few minutes to warm up to get into the game. And that first half against Liverpool was really quite nervy with him and Chambers there. But I thought he came in and just looked absolutely on point straight away. Right? And I'm a huge fan of his, and I just think he's got such potential to be a top player. He's brilliant in the air. He's quick and agile in the tackle. One-on-one, he's brilliant. He's determined. And I just look at him and think, well, how good are you going to get? You're 25, which is really young for a central defender. He's quick. I just think he's a very good player. And I look forward to the day when he has enough about him as an individual that he can take on a more leadership role with Koscielny, because teams won't target Gabriel like they target Saka, right? So that tells you sometimes there could be an issue, but it's a squad game, so the fact that we have 3 to 4 centre backs is really, really good. Chambers, I was looking very closely because I have concerns about centre midfield, about Flamini's ability to to play 3 times a week. It's not his fault. He's 31, 32, and he knows that he's at his physical limit. And so Chambers is the one I was watching the most. I sometimes feel he's a little bit casual on the ball, and people call it composure. I like to see him have a bit more snap, but I thought he played really, really well. He receives the ball really good on back foot, and he spreads it out the other side. But what I liked is when he knocked it short combinations, he didn't stand still. He looked for good support lines, and these support lines were not like a centre-backs, they were like a centre midfielders. And another thing to look for when you're watching a player is, do other players give him the ball? Do they trust him with the ball? And the other players were giving him the ball because they knew he was secure on the ball. And that trust is built up in training. And obviously he's done quite well in training to actually get that start in centre mid. And I thought he was the most encouraging player because there was huge potential there. I thought he tired late on and he started to slow down a bit. But I thought there's something in him there. And I do have concerns about his ability being the last line of the defence until he gets a bit more physical and develops a bit more match fitness. But centre midfield, I thought he did a very, very good passable job that's got a lot of potential, and it looked sort of natural for him. And so that was really encouraging, and I think we're going to need that body because we've lost so many in centre mid. So that was the most pleasing thing about the game for me, was the 4 players that came in really did a job. That means we found 4 new squad members.
Judd, I'll let you shoot in on Gabriel just quick, but do you guys feel with Gabriel, like, I was saying it to one of my friends the other day, you know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer back in the day was willing to sit on the bench, but knew when his time come, and he was solid. I know obviously he's a defender and Solskjaer was a centre forward, but that's how I get that vibe with Gabriel, where he's like, do you know what, yeah, I'll sit here, but when I get called upon, you better watch out, because, you know, shit's going to hit the fan. I'm going for it today. That's how I think, you know, he puts his tie on, puts his nice little Arsenal suit on. As soon as that comes off and the kit's on, I just reckon he's got his headphones in, sits in the corner by himself, punches himself in the face. He's a warrior.
Well, that's kind of the attitude you need to have if you're going to be a squad player. You need to have that attitude that once I get my chance, I'm going to take it. And I think you can definitely see that he has that attitude. I thought he played brilliantly, and like Clive was saying, you know, I've always been encouraged by the way that he's played when he has gotten his chances, and I can definitely see him being a very important player in the future. You know, it could be, you know, later this spring, next year, whenever, you know, 3 years from now, I can see him being a very important member of our squad. But one thing I'd like to add about the team, and man, is Ozil making some Arsenal fans look really dumb right about now. I mean, you want to talk? I mean, for me, he was clearly the man of the match. I mean, he was just sublime. I mean, like I've said several times, you just can't say enough positive things about the way he's been playing. For me, easily the most important player in our squad, probably the most important player in the league for the first half. I mean, he's just been amazing. And some people that were slating him for being lazy and not getting involved and disappearing and fading in and out. Well, what do you think now?
I mean, I've got the statistic here. He's been involved in 19 goals in the Premier League so far this year. Mahrez is the only one with 20, so he's only one ahead. But like you said, every week, especially when it's at home, it's like he treats us to a show, doesn't it? It's like the Mesut Ozil show every week, and I put, you know, he assists the goal for Gabriel, which is an absolute bullet header, fair play, and the passion from the guy was immense. And then second half, his goal, Clive, I mean, that's what you want Giroud there for. He's got them flicks in him, but the finish was sublime as well, wasn't it? It tucked that away better than some centre forwards.
Yeah, I mean, in truth, you know, we were talking about away games earlier on, and you know, I think, you know, Giroud at home, when we're pressing teams back and he's round the box, you know, there isn't many better than him, and that was a great example of how he allows others to look good. And when he sort of passed it through the goalkeeper's legs, you almost hear a different cheer. The crowd sort of go, like that. And it's you know, it's not like a yes. It's like, it's just, I mean, some of the passes, he played one bullet pass to Walcott into the area. And it took Walcott 3 touches to realise he'd even had the ball, right? So he was, and that was my only disappointment actually. He created 9 chances. He actually deserved a 5-0. We should have won that game 5-0.
Yeah.
And because this wasn't about, I mean, the assist he got, right? He took a corner, right? Great. He takes great corners, so what? But I mean, he created 9 chances, and I don't know how many of those were in open play. But
Are you talking about the Walcott one in the first half where he like sort of bent it?
Well, he did the bent. He did the bent one. We also buzzed
Yeah.
in quickly. First time, buzzed it into his feet, and on the left hand side, and he ran into the box, took a couple of touches, and then messed it up. I felt a bit sorry for him. I actually felt he deserved better from the game because we should have won that game 5-0. Because it wasn't just the chances he created; it was the quality of chances he created. They deserved target to be hit. We didn't get shots off on some of them because we weren't ready. We weren't on our toes to receive the ball. We didn't think it would make it. So we won the games. I'm not going to cry myself to sleep, but I do think he deserved even more. And again, we all like what we're seeing. I've spoken about it many times, but I just think we're lucky to really watch a player like him because I just enjoy watching him work out the game, work out where to hurt people, how to hurt people, how he's worked out how to play with Giroud and play with Walcott and play with Sanchez and play with Ramsey, and he combines with all of them, which tells you, and they're all giving the ball, and that tells you he is the man. I've heard a little rumour before that sometimes in the past they were talking about dropping him, and they'd get to training and in the side of the club he'd go to a training session and he'd be the best player in training by a million miles. So they wanted to rest him, they just felt they couldn't because he would just run the training games completely. And it's like, sometimes got to rest Ozil, he's looking tired. Get to the Friday 8v8, and he'd just be head and shoulders with everybody else, and they just think, well, we got to play him, right? So, and I just think, you hear those things from inside the club, and you just think, wow, how good is he really? But what's really been impressive, he's doing this with Sanchez being out, and he's really taken on the leadership role. And, that is really encouraging. The bits that we thought he was quite a deferent character, happy to sit in other people's shadows and not really take a lead role. That's the big difference for me this year. He's taken on a real leadership role and he's really demanding more from himself and his teammates. And I just hope he gets what he deserves to get at the end of the season, which is a Premiership League winners medal, which would be nice.
Yes. I'll tell you what, I don't know if you guys notice it with Ozil at the moment. I've been watching him, like you said, like a hawk. Especially, I went to the Sunderland game, so I was watching him there very, very closely. And what he used to do the last 2 seasons, when he tried to pass the ball in for like an assist and they messed it up, his head he'd run and he'd lose the ball, head straight down, and that was it for him. The game's ruined. Now, especially yesterday, he was screaming at Walcott when he missed the chances. He's like, I fucking put it on a plate for you here, mate. Like, what more do I have to? And his head stays up the whole. And I'm like, yeah, you keep your head up, son, because you're thriving, boy. Don't let this get. If your pass goes astray, it goes astray. There'll be another one. We'll feed him all day. We'll give him a buffet of passes.
I think part of that comes with time of being in the squad.
Yeah.
When you're the new kid, you don't want to ruffle any feathers, but. And, Clive was saying that they must think highly of him within the club. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Wenger compare him to Bergkamp, saying he's one of the most complete players he's ever seen play?
I think he said something along the lines of he is the most complete we've had since then, which, to be fair, I can't argue with.
And then he said, Bergkamp's more of a goal scorer and Ozil's more of a creator, but he's starting to add the goal scoring to his game. And that, he's one of the... I think he said he's one of the best players he's ever even seen. When somebody like Wenger's throwing around compliments like that, I mean, obviously he's got to be doing something special. And to me, it doesn't really make any difference, but I just wish that the fans could appreciate what he does do a little bit more. And if you know what you're looking at, you've been able to see that he's been doing things like this for more than just the first half of this season. He's been doing it since he arrived, and it just hasn't always come off. Now it is, and you can see what a difference it makes.
I do think I do think we're at the sort of the Christmas period is very difficult to manage, right? So if we beat Newcastle on Saturday, we've got what I call power points from the Christmas period. But I do think that Wenger has a responsibility really to make sure that either if the injured players are not coming back, we do have to support him with some new faces. And I'm not saying by 5. I'm just saying, look, if we're not going to get Jack Wilshere back till March, then we got to do something, right? And so, if we're not getting Danny Welbeck back till March, then we got to do something. And that's it. If they were fit, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? It's because they'll be on the bench coming on, making a difference. But I do think it's really important that Wenger does not run this guy out completely. He can't keep doing this. We've got to protect him. We've got to make sure we have the ability to rotate. It's really important.
We were lucky Germany didn't take him last time, but obviously on the form he's on now, they'll definitely take him, wouldn't they?
Well, they were smart, right? Because he's the only one who doesn't get a winter break, so they kept him out, and he had a 2-week break, and since then he's been fantastic. So we owe Joachim Low a big debt of gratitude, unlike the Chile manager who ran into the ground.
Well, we're guilty of running Sanchez into the ground as well, though. I mean,
we are, right? Well, he's guilty of running himself into the ground, right? So I don't imagine. They're not going to arrest him for World Cup qualifiers. I get it, but you can see the difference, can't you? If you get a player that has the right level of rest, and then he can peak for certain moments in the season, you get someone else who basically had 2 weeks off in the summer, and Alexis Sanchez could and maybe should be the best player in the league. And we haven't really seen him for more than a 3-week burst so far. So I'm hoping this enforced break will bring him back for that string of away games that we're really going to need him for, and he can find some sort of form like he did when we beat Leicester, for example, where he was outstanding. So I do think it's very important that we do what we saw last night with Chambers coming in may mean we can play Aaron Ramsey in a 10 position for 1 week, so we don't run Ozil into the ground, So it is important we do use all the players in the squad and make sure we don't kill this guy, because he's a very special player.
Yeah. I will say as well, a lot of people. Sorry, Judd, go for it.
And Ozil's a little bit different style of player too. Or Sanchez only knows one speed, and that's full go. Ozil, I think, kind of just can pace himself a little bit better. So, and I think one of the things that really irked me is after the Sanchez injury, Wenger said, you can't predict an injury. Well, you can certainly predict when somebody is at a higher risk for an injury. So I hope that he learned from that you can't be putting people out here in these, situations where they are fatigued. Clearly they're fatigued, because that's when, they've got a greater risk of doing something. So hopefully we'll learn from that, and then they'll be more responsible with Ozil.
Yeah, I would say as well, a lot of people, me being one of them, going on about the old 30 to 40 goal a season strikers. Does that matter when you consider that on the rate Ozil's going, he could have about 30 assists? Do you think it doesn't matter who taps them in, it's who's setting them up, really? What do you guys make of that?
I just think, Wenger's been talking about this thing, the collective. I think, actually, even though he probably brought us some of the greatest players we've ever seen in the club's history, I'm not sure he was ever comfortable with the star mentality. I think he likes players to work together, a similar work ethic. I don't think he likes superstars. I think he appreciates developing them, but I don't think he likes to bring in superstars that are right at the top of their game. I think he wants to bring in sort of the right characters, and there are strong rumours that he's very, very happy with the dynamics in the changing rooms, and I think the collective really works. It just goes to show that, if, for example, we've been there in the past when Vieira was out, we never won. We just never won, right? So even a couple of years ago when Arteta was out, we never won, right? So, and it doesn't work. And we're watching Man City right now, and I think tonight might have been their first ever clean sheet when Company hasn't played, right? So you get players almost too big, and it's not healthy because they're only human and they don't play well every single week. So it's much better to have depth and a level of a collective, and I think that's what Wenger's really looking for.
For me, it's just my main concern is the ultimate achievement of winning the league or or whatever. I don't care how we get there. Clearly, having 30 goal scorers is fun to watch. And those are the guys that go down in the history books and the annals of the club. But, as long as we win the league, that's the main objective. If we get there with, a 35 goal scorer, or we get there with 3 12-goal scorers, to me, it doesn't really make that big of a difference in the end.
Yeah.
I've never been a guy to put a name on the back of my shirt anyway. So.
Is that because most of the ones that you have, they've left, haven't they? Or you said, I swear it was you who said that before on the pod.
No.
You're like, every time I do it, they fuck off or whatever, so I'm not doing it anymore.
Well, I mean, it was obviously, it's been years ago now, but it was Van Persie and Fabregas, and then finally I had a mate that was buying me a top as a gift. Yeah. And I told him I didn't want a name on it. He's like, man, you got to have one. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll exile him. There's no way he'd go anywhere. And then sure enough, that next summer he's gone.
Yeah. Kiss of death, aren't you, Judd? Kiss of death.
So if you got somebody you want to get rid of, just tweet me their name. I'll make sure I
it. Good times. Good times. Well, going as well, obviously he gave a fantastic interview, which he does. I think he's brilliant with the media, and I love watching him doing drumming covers of Metallica songs, being a metal fan like I am. That's Petr Cech, by the way. 170 clean sheets, all right. He obtained most of them at Chelsea, but he's one of ours now. He's an Arsenal boy, and he said this is important, but what's more important is a league title at the end of May, which I'm like, that's a great touch. And you mentioned it, Clive, I think on the podcast we did when we signed him, is that he also said about making a statement in Europe and everything. What kind of player, how good has Cech been? I know we keep saying it nearly every week about every player, but how important is Cech to this team? Because I feel he's really pivotal.
I think what he's shown. I went to Paris when we lost the European Cup final, right? And I sat there and watched Manuel Almunia in goal.
Oh God.
And and I didn't think nothing of it at the time, and I just didn't think goalkeepers that important. And when you see Petr Cech there,
oh come on now.
I'll be straight with you, right? I'll be straight. I think we're a good goalkeeper. Yeah, it's important, but really, I mean, this guy. Okay, he's a good goalkeeper. He's probably been, if we're honest, right, he's been the best Premiership goalkeeper, right? So, in the Premiership times, but what he's brought as a individual to the team, as a man, really, has really surprised me. I just never saw it from looking at Chelsea, for example. I just never saw it. And but he is bordering on our captain. He's bordering on a changing room leader. The players obviously look up to him, and he works with them. You can hear him shouting from the back. I mean, he's just total professional, and I just never expected it. All I thought when we got him, thought we're going to have a calmer goalkeeper that's going to make us look more assured. But he's turned into a true Arsenal player and a true professional in my eyes. That I just never expected him to be that good. And his influence. You talk about, when you're trying to assess a player as like a coach or a scout, one of the things you look for is player influence. How many touches, how you influence the game. And I tell you what, if you mark him out of 10 for influence, he's an 11, right? He's just incredible. His influence on the team, on the club. And I have to say, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised, but I'm not sure. It's just a perfect signing. And we all laughed. We're the only team in Europe not to sign an outfield player. But by signing him, we gained 3 or 4 defenders because they just look better because he's there.
Yeah, I agree. Judd, you're our self-proclaimed goalkeeping expert. Fire away.
I mean, being a keeper myself, I've always viewed the game as a keeper. So to me, it's been the one, like I've said several times before on the podcast, it's been the one position that I've been saying for years that we could make the biggest improvement in the final result with just one player changing. And I think this year it's certainly shown that. And I think it was John Terry said at the beginning of the season that Cech's going to give us, 12 points or something like that. I mean, yeah. I think he might have already. And, it could be far more than that. And, I won't go too much more on about Cech because I've said it all before on here. But the one thing that I read, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Wenger said that he regretted that Chelsea beat him the signing check when he went to Chelsea, and that just does my head in. And he's like, well, I think I've learned from that. And I think when was that? Like in the early 2000s? And how many times have we been beaten to signing a player since then? Just does my head in. So, but, it doesn't really matter. We've got him now, and we're reaping the rewards, and I couldn't be happier.
Definitely agree. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on about Bournemouth quick, or do you want to just go straight into the list of questions? It's up to you guys.
Well, I'm just glad Czech finally got his shutout. I was starting to think that it wasn't ever going to happen. So now that we got that done, Czech was saying that he started watching the clock for about the last 10, 15 minutes. Now he doesn't have to worry about that, and he can just focus on completing the match now.
Clive, is there anything else you wanted to add? Or
against Bournemouth, we did well. We responded as I expected to. Once we chucked the game at Southampton, we responded. But you know what? We weren't brilliant, but we still won at a canter, and that's a really good sign, right? So these home games, we just got to take the maximum points because we've got a lot of tough away games, as I alluded earlier, right? So,
yeah.
We've got Newcastle, we've got to do them. That's it. Just do them, walk away. And so against Bournemouth, they had a couple of moments. Yeah, okay, we expected to beat them, but so were Chelsea the other day, and they beat them, didn't they? So it can happen. It can go wrong. So good points. Walk away.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll get quickly into the list of the questions. Let's get them open here. There we go. The first question here is from Michael Jamin. Hopefully I got your name right there. It's Michael Jamin 7. He's put, if Mohamed Elneny does come, is it Elneny or El Nene?
I think it's El Nene.
I'll go with El Nene because I think I've already made the chant for him with the old whip El Nene. So if Mohamed El Nene does come in, will he be cover for Coquelin or cover for Ramsey? Now, for me, I think he's cover for Flamini and Arteta. That's what I feel personally. But what about you two?
Well, I've done something.
Go ahead, Clive. I'm no expert on transfers. Go ahead, son.
I've done some extensive YouTube research, right? And
oh no. Clive, what have I told you? I could put me playing in the garden on YouTube, edit the clips, and I could be the Chelmsford version of Lionel Messi.
You can see a lot, right? So you can see a lot, right? So I like, obviously most people look great on YouTube, and but he does look interesting, right? So if you look at his numbers, right, he's very sort of energetic. Yeah. Remember on the last pod I spoke about a centre midfield player. I said I'd like to see a energetic, slightly rangy centre midfield player with energy who can press the ball and move it quickly. Now I tell you, you play it back. That's exactly what I said, right? So
yeah,
and that's exactly what he is. What's interesting about him is he moves the ball off one touch, which I really like. I hate seeing players in the centre have too many touches because straight away the picture's already changed in the wide areas or up front, right? So he gets it quick, one touch. He's quite leggy. He can play both roles. People are fixated with, we need a DM, someone to sit there. Well, actually, we've got someone in Callum Chambers now to sit there if we want someone. We actually need people to engage a lot more, and he's much more engaging. He's much more with a box-to-box type feel.
Yeah.
But he's a bit of an interceptor rather than a crunch tackler, right? And that's where football is going. He can't slide in anymore, apart from Coquelin. He does it perfectly. Not many players do it very well. So I actually think having these all-round players is the way to go in centre midfield. But it's the ability to see a picture early and move the ball quickly. That's the trick, and he definitely has that. Obviously, he's playing for Basel, right? So the only gauge we have is seeing him in the sort of Europa League against Tottenham and Liverpool. And I looked at those games and he did quite well. It's a classic Wenger signing, and it's also a signing, in my opinion, that is really a recent trend. Looking at players with potential, like Gabriel, he's another signing which seems to scream analytics to me.
Yeah,
his numbers. He's exactly the profile player that we haven't got, that we need, that we've now bought. As if Wenger said, I want this player. And what he has got, which I hadn't thought about, that he's also very good on set pieces, and he's got a great shot on him, and he's scored a lot of his goals from outside the box.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we don't have that player. We don't have a set piece expert in our team. We have Sanchez and Ozil that can do it, but we haven't got a specialist, right? So again, he's adding to the profile of players that we haven't got. So I'm really encouraged by him as a player as he stands. Also, we haven't seen him yet, but
Yeah.
he looks interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, this analytics company, is this the same ones that are like at Brentford that started off with that FC Midtjylland in Denmark and stuff like that? Are these the guys that generate all this information? Because you seem to know a lot more than most people do about this analytics side of things, Clive, or is this just a separate company altogether that Arsenal...
About 2 years ago, they bought a company for about £2.5 million. I can't remember the name. I don't know. I want to say the name DNA. I'm not sure that's quite the right name.
Yeah.
But and I thought it was very interesting. It's on the bottom of like one of our sort of results. It was just like a little addendum, and there's been a couple of articles in the Guardian about it, right? And they all they're looking at player recovery, player performance, but also they're obviously looking at player data. You look at your own player data, and you look at player data across Europe, right? So you're looking for that edge. And so if your manager says, "Oh, I need to get a centre half who's quite agile, quite quick," you know, who do I look for? Who's got the best interception? Who's got the best tackles? And that points you to the certain players, and then you go and put the human eye on them, right? So Gabriel to me is a classic analytics signing. You know, and then this one is another one. There's also a Mexican winger that they're looking at that's the second fastest player in the world.
There we go. Yeah, we had this discussion on Twitter ourselves.
And I'm looking at that, I'm thinking it's the same again, right? And with analytics, with data, the more data you have, the more accurate you can be, right? So on your own players, the more information we have on them, the more accurate we can be to assess injury, to assess recovery, to assess performance, peaks, to know what they're going to do when. I just think it's a very interesting aspect of...
Yeah, of course.
And we're not an oil-driven team. We haven't got, you know, endless sums of money, right? Even though some people think we do have. We still try to run a sustainable business. So I'm looking at Arsenal to find a way of finding an edge. And this is a way of finding an edge, right? If you look at our recent history in the transfer market, we've all got to say it looks really impressive, right? So I hope that trend continues, right? We haven't had too many Santoses for a while, or Silvestras for a while. Do you know what I mean? So we are stepping up. And you look at what's going on. Our last recent signings, I like them all, and they look, you know, they've got potential in them. So I'm really encouraged by what I've read and what I've seen, and obviously the proof of the pudding is in what happened. But also, I'm actually quite glad that he's not made a signing which goes against the strategy of what he's trying to do. He hasn't just gone lumpy and bought someone big and said, I need you to cover a gap. I don't really care what happens in 6 months' time. I don't want to see that. I want to see a signing that maybe we were looking at for the summer that we bring forward. You know, because that means we're doing our research properly, right? So sometimes you get opportunities, I grant it, but sometimes you get something that you can't refuse. It looks encouraging, and it looks like an Arsenal signing to me. So I hope it happens.
Yeah, I mean, the only criticism that I've read of him is obviously due to his height and everything else. His aerials aren't the best, so he's not fantastic with the balls in the air. So maybe. They'll try and maybe exploit that. But like you said, he seems like he's got a bit of an engine. He's obviously got a shot on him, like you said, the set pieces as well. So, if he does come along, expect a podcast. We've already done a good blog. Mr. Giles has done one already. So if you guys want to know a bit more, obviously read that. There's a lot of information in there. And if we do sign him, then best of luck for him. But going into the next question, Vengerholic asked us, has Petr Cech surpassed your expectations on and off the pitch? I think we've already sort of answered that, unless you guys want to chip in some more, or shall I go to another one?
I'll just say that I don't think he has. I think, I kind of expected this. I mean, maybe it's not maybe to a small degree he's done more than I thought he would. But, like I've said, he's the type of signing we've needed, that we've been crying out for. And, I think it's just that now people finally realize that when you have a player in the goalkeeping position that's capable of pulling out, just a handful of blinding saves a season can make the difference in, 10, 15 points. And I think the last year, I hate to say it, but Chesney was guilty of too many times allowing that one opportunity that the opponent had to go into the back of the net, and then this year Czech's not doing that, and it hits you like a ton of bricks, even though it's been right in front of you the entire time.
Yeah, that's the thing I told you countless times. Me and you've laughed about it. Is that Sheck knows that a game of football lasts 90 minutes. Chesney thinks it can be 85.
He's thinking about when he can get that next bag in the locker room.
73. Yeah, so sometimes it's 60 minutes. Sometimes it's 20.
Sometimes it doesn't start until the 30th minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like he sort of forgets where he is. He's like, oh God, I've got gloves on. I'm in a football style. Christ, yeah. He seems to forget what he's doing. But that's enough about him anyway.
Yeah.
We've got a question here from Touch of Alexis. He's put, Clive, you obviously watched Leicester City tonight. Judd, did you watch it?
Yeah, I caught the second half.
Oh, okay, I was watching a documentary about David Beckham and UNICEF, so I'm guilty. I didn't watch it, but he's put, is Riyad Mahrez a Arsenal quality player? I have to say yes. I really like him, and his goal against Chelsea, I've said it before, I'll say it again, if that's Messi, Neymar, Suarez, or someone, Lewandowski, someone of that calibre, that gets shown for weeks, it gets talked about for weeks. That was absolute quality from him.
I think he's an Arsenal quality player, but I don't see us going for him.
Yeah, same.
I'd agree with that.
The price will now be 25 million. If the price was 11 million a year ago, then I see us going for him, right? So I think sometimes the ship sails. I felt the ship sail with Schneiderlin. We should have had him 2-3 years ago at a much cheaper price. We didn't go for it, and he's now got himself with some strange agents. He's got his 150 grand a week. He's at Man United, and he's sitting behind Schweinsteiger, and I must be wondering, what am I doing? Well, you're going to be a rich boy, but you missed your opportunity to come and play.
Well, according to Charlie Nicholas, we can still sign him.
Let's see. But you know what? No one's saying we need him right now. Well, not as many people saying we need him. Because I've looked at him closely, and he's not that good on the ball. Right? He's not that good on the ball. And that's really important for us, that we have midfielders that can move the ball quickly and have real security on the ball. Otherwise, when we don't have that, it stands out. Right? So, Mahrez, now he has that quality on the ball. He's got I love a lefty on the right hand side, as you know, and I think it's a real shame we didn't steal him before this. Funny enough, his worst game was against us. He was awful. Monreal put in his pocket, and I'm thinking, and funny enough, the week after he got rested for a couple of weeks, and since then he's been tremendous. And even tonight, his ability on the ball is great. His work rate was really good. He worked back fantastic. Kolarov is a mean, hard-running fullback, and he worked him hard, and he managed to get a couple of blocks on his crosses while threatening the other end. I thought it was a big test for him tonight, and I thought, okay, he didn't find it as easy as playing against Swansea, but he didn't look out of place against a Champions League team, and the price would be stupid, right? But he's definitely Arsenal quality, and the way he plays with his head up, the way he manipulates the ball, the way he works, I've got to say he's a very interesting player.
Well,
And Judd?
He probably struggled against us because we probably have a pretty extensive scouting report on him. But yeah, I mean, he is certainly class. There's no disputing that. Like Clive said, I don't see us making a move for him. I'd be shocked if we did. Not the Wenger type once that they've made it. Sorry, what was that?
I said I wouldn't be unhappy though if we did move for him.
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean I'd be over the moon if we did, but it's just that's not the type of player he goes after. The well-established players, he goes after the guys. Mahrez 2 years ago. That's where that undiscovered gem, and But yeah, he's certainly class. Great on the ball, quick, and he's certainly at the Arsenal level. I mean, he could probably fit in just about any club in Europe right now, the way he's been playing.
Yeah. And we've got a question here from Arsenal Ozu11, who's at Fards 20. He put, what do you think will need to happen to avoid performances like Southampton again?
Oh, geez. Well, if we knew that, I think we'd probably be managing the club. I think like we did against Bournemouth, good bit of rotation. Yeah,
Because, like we said, they look knackered. They were a bit leggy, and hopefully, I'm not saying that if this LNA comes in, but like with Coquelin out, we just need a bit of discipline in that midfielder. If people are going to get rough against us, I miss the days where we had a player like a Tony Adams or a Keown that was like, oh, do you know what? Fuck off a minute here. This ain't happening. I don't. I think we lose that without Coquelin.
yeah.
So I think someone needs to hold up to that mantle.
It's easy to say just rotational fix everything because they looked tired, but you never know when that is really coming. They had 5 days off beforehand, and in our league and as many games as we play, that's an eternity really. There's
Yeah,
no
that's true.
reason that the whole squad should have been struggling as bad as they were. And then some very important players had some massive letdowns. I think Koscielny turned the ball over 15 times. And like 7 or 8 of them in our own half. You can't be doing things like that. And like you said, I mean, they did all look tired, but it was the entire squad. Sometimes those things just happen. A lot of times it's just one or two guys that gets covered over. People give them, a 5 on their player ratings when they, hop on SkySports.com or whatever, and then it's forgotten. But when the entire squad or 5 or 6 guys all have a down day together, things like Saturday happen. It's just part of football. Things like that happen on occasion. Hopefully it's very limited. But the important thing is that they take the same approach in every match going into it, whether it's, at Man City or home against Villa. You got to approach the game the same way. It doesn't matter who the opposition is. And, hopefully you can then limit those types of results.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Got a question here from Wantidoma159. He put, do you think Chambers can be our future defensive midfielder, or is he a future centre-back, or is he just a utility player? So that's sort of 3 questions in one. You've been a bit cheeky there, Waleed. But I'll let you off.
Yeah, only one per
I'll let him
pod.
off. I'll let him off. I'll let you go first, Judd, and then Clive if you want to chime in.
Well, I don't know exactly where he'll fit in. He's looked good at defensive mid. I think he's doing the right thing as a young player, trying to take the opportunity wherever it's presented. And, he did look good. He hasn't looked bad at center back when he's filled in there, and then he has looked terrible at center back at times when he's filled in there. And then same can be said when he's been playing out wide. So it's early days. I think it's great to have a player of his both physical qualities, size-wise, and his mental ability, seemingly knowing several positions in the field, and whether he develops into a specialist in one or a utility at all, I think either way would be a benefit to the club. I'd be happy to see him stay at any of those 3 positions. I think he's still got a bright future ahead of him, but I think right now it's too early to really pinpoint him as to one of those 3. Who knows from here? Anything could happen. I mean, look at Gibbs. He's a left wing now.
Yeah.
Who knows what could happen?
Yeah. Yeah, Louis Gibbo, I like to call him. And Clive, what about yourself? Where do you see Chambers fitting in? I mean, there's been that comparison. I've made it before with Phil Jones. If you keep throwing him everywhere, he's not gonna develop at any place. But where do you see his future lie? Do you still see him as a centre back? That's deep down. That's where I feel. But what about yourself?
I think through his youth, through his academy career, he was a centre midfield player. Right? So that's where he trained. That's where he was schooled. He then, because he was quite tall for his age, for England under-17s, he did play centre back, and he did do that for a while. So he's definitely a central player, and that's how Wenger sees him. I do think when we're playing deep, he can still play right back. I think he's obviously got a few issues with speed in wide areas, but I'm just glad that we've got a 20-year-old English player playing in our team. I think it's really good. The minutes he gets are all going to be valuable to develop him, right? So that's our responsibility to him. We bought him. He's our 3rd highest, most expensive player we've ever bought. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we look after his career, right? So I was really pleased what he did yesterday. I don't care if it was Bournemouth. I was just really pleased that he's in a central position, holding his own, with lots of room to improve. I think sometimes at centre half he can look a bit jittery, but none of us are saying that when he first signed, when he played against Man City in the Charity League, Charity Shield. He was fantastic that day, and none of us are saying he looked jittery. It's just down to confidence and feeling you belong. As soon as he gets us a run of games, and that may be 2 years away, right? That he's going to be good enough. Well, he's going to be good enough to play for us. So for me, the next 2 years, it's all about development, and maybe some of that may come away from the club. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets a few months away. But I would like to see him playing a number of positions: fullback, centre half, centre midfield. I think eventually he'll end up at centre half.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And the last question we got is from Shecky Nando's lad. It gets me every time. I love that. He put, "Do you think Mesut Ozil will win the PFA Player of the Year award?" Now, there's a lot of people in the media that have an agenda against Mr. Ozil. And we had someone come on to defend that said agenda, which is available on YouTube and iTunes. You can listen back to that podcast. Very good one with Neil Ashton. What do you guys think? I think at the moment, without bias, I would say he is the shining light of the Premier League. And what about you two?
Who is it exactly that votes on that? Is it the players? Is it the players that actually vote?
It is the players, and they normally vote around January time, funny enough.
Yeah.
And so if you're voting for Player of the Year in the next few weeks, Arsenal sitting top of the league and our most expensive signing is running the show, he could be 2-1 favourite, right? So, but things change very quickly, and a lot of people are very impressed with Vardy. Obviously, we're Arsenal fans, right? So it's almost like a non-question, right? So. Not only is he, in my opinion, the best player this season, he's one of the best players I've ever seen. He's in my top 3 at Arsenal, full stop. That's just the type of player that I like to watch, right? So that's my own ways. I don't look at goalkeepers closely, Jeff, but I look at Mesut Ozil's closely, right? So that's the way I look at the game, right? So yeah,
that's fine. No, and I'd agree. I think he's certainly worthy of. I think. I don't know if how much recognition he gets from those people that aren't out there on the field with him. I think sometimes some of his contributions go unrecognized, and hopefully that doesn't hurt him in the voting. But he's certainly worthy of it.
Oh, is Clive gone again, or is he still?
No, I'm still there.
Oh, sorry. I was waiting for a response, Clive.
No. We've done enough eulogizing over it.
I thought you were going to rebuttal there. Well, sorry about that. There's a bit of a lapse, but hopefully we can fix that. The next game at home again. It's the first of the Tyneside and the Wearside teams coming down. It's Newcastle. How do you see this one going, boys? They're not on a great run, but I said that about Southampton. Look what happened there. So, what you guys think of this one? I'm going to go 2-0, and my first goal scorer is going to be. I'm going to go with Bellerin.
Interesting.
I think it's actually Bellerin. We haven't spoken about him. I thought he looked back to his best. That's the best game he's had since his injury was against Bournemouth, for sure. He looked absolutely brilliant, right? So that's good to see. Another one we've got to look after and make sure we don't overplay, right? He's only 20 years of age, right? So got to look after him. Newcastle were very unlucky. They lost last minute against Everton and they lost 1-0 to West Brom. So they're coming in with 2 defeats, desperate to not make it 3 defeats, right? So I think people are going to think it's going to be easy, and it should be. But I'll be happy with just any type of win because we got a tough mid to late January, right? So I think any type of win, just accumulate points. We're accumulating points without Alexis Sanchez, and no one thought we could do that, right? So the more points we accumulate without our centre midfield first choice pairing and Alexis Sanchez missing, that's 3 massively key players for us. In any way you look at it, statistically, what they give us on touches and passes and goals, and we're finding another way, right, to win. I want to see Alexis come back in after January, after the cup game against Sunderland. That's going to be interesting. So Newcastle, I don't care if it's 1-0 and we bore the pants of everybody, right? Just get the win. We get a chance to rest some players in the cup game, and then we have Liverpool on the Wednesday night, and I'm already looking at that, right? That's going to be an emotional night that we need to get something from. So that's the one I'm looking at. This is just 3 points. Get them, walk away. I'm going to be controversial. I actually do not care about the FA Cup this year. I do not care about it at all.
Whoa.
Yeah, already got 2 of those.
Yeah, I don't care about it. I'm going to get a lot of stick. I don't care about it.
Clive, you might turn YouTube against you. They're on your side, mate.
Well, because I'm looking at, we've got a massively big game against Barcelona, which I think we've got a chance in.
So do I. Call me deluded, so do I.
And I do not want to have the Champions League clashing with the FA Cup. It probably cost us one of our only 2 chances to actually win the whole thing, was we clashed with the FA Cup semi-final, then went out to Chelsea. One of probably the saddest night of my Arsenal watching life. And I don't want that again, right? So I'm looking ahead, if buts and maybes, but I'm much more concerned about how we do at Stoke away rather than beating Sunderland at home in the FA Cup. And that's the truth. I want us to win the league, right? So something's got to give. We haven't got a massive squad. We've got a number of long-term injuries. We don't know how they're going to come back, how long they're going to stay fit for, and what form they're going to be in. Something's got to give. Oh, if we win the game, I'm going to like it, but it wouldn't kill me if we didn't win it.
No worries. And Judge yourself?
Yeah, I think that, Newcastle, they are coming off a string of tough results, but not too far back. They beat Tottenham and Liverpool back to back. I think it was like the beginning of the month. So they're certainly capable of a result, and they won at Tottenham. So, I'm like Clive, I just want the 3 points. But, for the prediction, I'll say 2-1 and go with Walcott.
Nice. Yeah, well, that is a Gooner Ramble. I want to say thank you, Clive.
Thank you.
And I'll say thank you to you, Judd, as well.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Thanks, guys. And enjoy your New Year's. I hope you've all got a lot planned, but just mind yourselves with the old alcohol, Care as always. Be vigilant. And hopefully, if we sign Mr. El Nene, there will be a podcast out for that, so keep your eyes out. And we'll definitely do one after the Newcastle game, so keep your eyes out for that as well. Thanks again, everybody. And from myself and the rest of the team, have a good New Year's. And if you're old enough to drink, then be vigilant. If you're not old enough to drink, then still be vigilant, because I know you'll drink anyway. There's no point saying don't, because I know you'll do it. I know what kids are like. I was one myself. So just behave yourselves, just behave and take care. Thank you very much, and goodbye.